I am Captain Logan, and this is day 264 of Spawn Year. Spawn has always been an inherently flawed book, but one thing I can say for both it and its offshoots is that they have a lot of heart. Pardon me, a lot of hearts. Hearts, plural. Spawn comics have a lot of gooey, messy, gory, sticky, dripping, disembodied hearts. This time, it's Covenant's heart we see ripped out of its chest and by his own hand. In beautifully atmospheric pages, surrounded by darkness, intermittent lightning, and soaking wet from the pouring rain, Covenant internalizes his plight and curses God, not the devil, for the monster he has become and the destruction he has unwittingly created. He blames God for not somehow making it clear to him that it was evil and not just killings he did during the Crusades. Tired of being used and manipulated by both sides of an eternal war, Covenant performs a totally on-the-nose symbolic act. He throws his physical heart into the sea, representing his refusal to be either hell or heaven's property. And just in case the reader can't recognize an obvious and overused metaphor, or miss the myriad uses of the same obvious and overused metaphor in other Spawn comics, Covenant proceeds to spell it out for us by yelling at the cosmos. And then, equally symbolic and obvious, he thinks better of it, knowing that he can't really escape his fate and run from the war that's claimed him. So he puts his heart back in his chest, and being a Hellspawn, it doesn't require major surgery. Like Al Simmons, and I'm sure like every other Spawn, since not wanting to work for Hell seems like a ridiculous prerequisite for being a Hellspawn, Covenant wants to renege on the deal he made with Bulgy and shed his obligations to Hell's army. And then, just as he's come to the realization that this is impossible, and after the ghost of his dead lover who died in childbirth shows up to tell him how blind he is to his failings and how he's blamed God for what he is, but he had plenty of warning that what he did in the Crusades was wrong, even though the God of this universe isn't that much better than the devil. He's ambushed by a bunch of druids, and they conveniently give him just what he wanted, his humanity back. Well, sort of. The druids worship the green world, and while they side neither with heaven or hell, they see Covenant as a threat they need to neutralize. The green world gives them great powers. They're able to paralyze all of Covenant's body except his mouth, apparently, since he still has dialogue in this section, and at first their intentions seem to be Covenant's total destruction. I really like the offhanded, matter-of-fact way their leader, Gareth, announces, "I will be the administrator of your demise." Considering that moment of weakness where I went to town on Doomsvents with a knife, and that unfortunate business with the jacket, and the fact that I'm being forced by Tiny Adam West to train for some barbaric fight to the death I'm pretty sure there's no way out of, I don't mean to sound like a guy who relishes in violence and murder, but outside of any context, Administrator of Your Demise sounds like a freaking sweet job title. Anyway, turns out despite his initial ominousness, Gareth's only out to neutralize the part of Covenant their gods find dangerous, the demon part, and so they perform a crazy, painful ritual involving the three candles that illuminate every darkness: knowledge, nature, and truth. Right, because none of those things is ever dark in and of itself. At the end, Covenant has lost his powers, has red blood, and breathes like a man again, but Gareth vaguely claims that he's still what he was, just no longer as dangerous. He doesn't know what Covenant is, but luckily had this spell that would do what he needed to, despite lacking any information about his subject. Just like Nyx when she did a spell to reunite Al with the Shadow, and the spell interpreted that as his symbiote, because that's what the story needed it to. See, that's the problem with magic in the wrong writer's hands. If it's just used as a crutch and has no rules of its own, it comes off as cheap and sloppy storytelling. Covenant recognizes he no longer belongs anywhere now. He's not a demon, but he's not human either, and oddly is in a similar situation as present-day Spawn after what Nyx did to him, except this one can't magic-proof his way out of tough spots. The narration is receding into nonsense about unanswered questions and Covenant's fate and all that meaningless mythology Spawn comics so often replace character-driven narrative with. This once fresh and smarter foray into the world of Spawn is starting to play the same old old tune and falling back on the same stale gimmicks. And wouldn't you know it, Covenant is getting less relatable and less interesting. Funny how there seems to be a direct correlation there. Signed, Captain Logan.